putting flip-flops on, cross her legs, or throwing up in the seat. We talked about this meeting like this. She just got comfortable.
She made herself right at home.
Better you than us.
Damn, and I thought I wore my good boots today, I didn't even need to.
We're overdressed.
Yeah, she was. But until after Boy and I started coming and dressing a little nicer, all she wore was them. Harley type.
Most of the time she sat on that end.
Yeah, cause Janet sat there.
Yeah.
Well, when I started coming, she was the chairperson and she sat in the middle. But when I got up here, she sat over here. Yeah.
I never see her either, ever, nowhere.
I used to run into her at Tierra Blanca, the massage place there on 10th Street, but I haven't seen her in a long time. Good, you're back? We're back from work. Didn't get enough, huh? No.
Abby, have you heard rumor of the city considering taking lodging tax back?
Without clouds.
The manager
Sometimes the shadows
is
are
on board
nice.
with it.
Oh,
It just
Yeah,
depends
and
on
they gotta convince the commission
how
that
clear,
the, based on the discussions I had, the whole reason they got rid of it is they
because we haven't seen that
Didn't-
when
they
white sand was.
didn't think they could use the money for very many things, and they felt
creates trouble for
constrained by it, but,
Right. So
they just weren't
it's a
being creative.
calm day,
and they didn't
but
read
with
the law
clouds,
and understand that
those
after
are
30
nice.
days,
Mhm.
anything that's collected can go to any purpose.
I know I took some of the list, but I didn't put the,
Well, then, I stayed in Saturday, 2 nights, last week,
no,
and we
when
got
you're
charged
taking them,
$35 a night.
really light
With
on
all
the
the
shots, and then they're really nice.
Added on
See,
fees for the,
and I put them in the building.
Above the room.
above the room.
In this building.
So this whole $1, $2 that we're at,
I'll see what you got, because I don't really have. Because then that helps me, because I tell people all the time about what, I said, you know, it's a government thing and they're doing business all the time.
We have a horrible restaurant there.
From the outside, in the main section, where, like the foyer and stuff.
Dean, when you guys gonna get the water thing and all that all picked back up out there?
They're working on it. I think they're waiting on the machine to come in now. So as soon as that comes in, they gotta drop some electric into that new building also. So,
Are you responsible for that saw cut, that trench that Tom's gonna be out there fixing the parking lot, patching potholes and stuff?
the one that goes from that new building out to where the water thing is, yeah, they're gonna run electric in there.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Big Wireless has once again raised their prices. In response, we're bringing back our deflation promotion. The marketing department asked me to be as explicit as possible when explaining it, so here we go. Because we don't love f***ing our customers over like Big Wireless, we're bringing back our offer for f***ing unlimited premium wireless for only $15 a month. F*** me to the moon and back, that's a great f***ing deal. Explicit enough marketing?
One of the better things that I decided to do in my adult life was to see a therapist.
If, like me, you suffer in silence, then you know how bad it can be for your mental health.
I found a service that has genuinely saved my life and the lives of many of my friends as well.
BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding therapists easy, convenient, attainable, affordable. It has been such a seamless experience for me.
You can communicate with your therapist via messages, phone calls, live video sessions, and even journal entries.
For the last however long, Monday nights at 9 o'clock, I sit down in my office with a little cup of tea and we talk about all things life.
I'm really grateful to have matched right off the bat with a therapist who really saw me and provided me with the support. It has been transformative.
They have so many different options of therapists on their platform that are so eager and excited to meet with you.
I gotta tell you, I feel very foolish for not using it sooner. It's helped me get my motivation back. It got me going back to the gym. It just feels like somebody took a giant weight off my shoulders.
The stigma that we have against talking about our mental health and asking for help when we need it has got to end right now.
No matter what is troubling you, know that you deserve to feel heard and get support. So if you have been looking to take the first step, I highly recommend you check out BetterHelp today.
Okay. So then you won't be here for the meeting.
What about the 12th, just one day ahead?
On the Wednesday?
It's 6. We're ready
Can we
to
do it
go.
on the 11th? Like, since we'll already be here?
Since we're here, yeah.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the special meeting of the Otero County Commission, Thursday, 11th, 2024. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Marquardt?
Here.
Commissioner Matherly?
Here.
Commissioner Barella?
Here.
I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move. So moved.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, our public hearings, discuss and hear public comment and consider approval of ordinance 24-01 county lodgers tax.
Well, Commissioners, just a heads up, I have several changes that I've made. They're not significant, but I think if we can hear public comment and discuss whether you want to do this or not, and if you decide you likely do want to do it, then we can go over the changes.
Okay.
And we do have a sign-up sheet if anybody wants.
Okay. Anybody want to sign up to speak? You do? Okay. I don't think you have to actually sign up. You're here to testify. Do you want to come up, Laura, and start us off?
Well, the thing I'm going to speak about is, I think, the changes that RB is going to talk about.
Okay. Did anybody else want to make any comments? Man, this is going to be a short meeting. We're going to go eat dinner.
How about if we got questions?
Yeah.
Okay. Page 3 of 12. The X amount on the gross taxable, it would be on section 4, item A. Says the tax of X%. Who is going to determine what that tax would?
We do.
I left that for all of you today, so it can be up to 5%, just like it is for the first 30 days. I left it as an undetermined amount because when I was researching, Eddy County, and I don't know why, chose to make the percentage for the rate after the first 30 days 2%. My feeling is it should stay 5%. I don't see any reason for reducing it.
So are you saying that the lodger's tax is automatic when it's 5%, and then if they stay for 31 days, they're exempt from the lodger's tax?
No. So the lodger's tax can be anything up to 5%. I went ahead and just put 5% for the first 30 days. The first 30 days that someone stays, that you collect, can only be used for limited purposes of the administration of the tax and advertising and the few other things identified in the statute. After those first 30 days, if I'm staying longer, the 31st day and beyond, that tax that is collected can be used for any general fund purpose that the commission designates. So, and it's set up so that you can do that annually by resolution, because those desired uses could change year to year. Talking with Senator Griggs, he felt it should be tied to quality of life type expenses, and he used the example of not roads, but I see quality of life connected to roads, and also tourism and people coming here. If we have nicer roads, they'll give them one less thing to complain about while they're here. So I think there's a lot of general fund purposes that it says you can use any that you designate, but I think many of them could be tied into supporting tourism as well as quality of life.
But wouldn't it be simpler for whoever's collecting it or the people that are sending it in to keep it one number to where it's not a confusing deal?
I think so, and just collect the max amount. I guess what Senator Griggs was trying to do in the legislature was actually raise it to 7%. So, you know, it's capped at 5% now, but I think it makes sense to keep it 5% straight across the board. And it does simplify it for our hotels, our Airbnbs, our RV parks, because it is a little bit of, it is an administrative burden on them to track this and collect it.
At what point does it stop being a short-term rental?
When someone chooses to not be temporarily here. So that is what distinguishes it. If I am just visiting, or if I'm here temporarily for military school, say the last 4 months, I am not establishing residency or anything permanent, so this tax would apply to those situations. However, the challenge with that, and the treasurer and I discussed that, is how do you identify that? And so the solution that I stole from Eddy County is having the lodger complete a affidavit saying they're here either temporarily or permanently. But that is, you know, if you have an Airbnb and maybe you're remote, you have to think through how you're going to accomplish having your tenant or your short-term visitor complete that form. But I don't know of a better way to do it. I'm open to ideas.
I know, I think when the city did it, they just did the lodger's tax if you stayed 30 days or less, and then anything over 30 days was not considered short-term, so they didn't charge it at all.
And
Is that right, Carl? Do you remember that?
I don't recall specifically, no.
I think that's how
that
worked.
seems to be why they got rid of it. They weren't aware that they could charge. At least when I spoke to the assistant manager, she wasn't aware that you could charge for after 30 days. And in discussions with her, one of the main reasons that they did away with it was they felt their hands were tied too much with the use of the funds, because the certain purposes that you could use them for.
Pretty
So,
limited.
yeah, if they'd been aware that they could collect after the 30 days and that it could be used for any purpose, they might have kept it. And because of that, they're also looking at bringing it back.
I think that was the only concern when I went around and visited the RV parks and everything, is that some of them have permanent residents. And that was their only concern, because, you know, they don't have the means to pay more. So the 30 days, I said, well, I think it's exempt from 30 days. But if there is a form where they can say I'm a permanent resident, then
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, as long as we can exempt those people.
It would still distinguish them from the snowbirds or whatever they're called.
Okay.
So we off that question for a minute? Okay, I got another question. Page 9 of 12. 5 and 6. Providing law enforcement, fire protection, sanitation services for tourist-related facilities, attractions, or events located within the county. Now, I'm going to give you an example, RB, and you tell me. Your Cherry Festival, it's an event. Would this tax have to provide outhouses, law enforcement, fire protection, or whatever is required for this event? And if it does, this tax is not going to make enough money to pay for these kind of things.
It'd be awesome if it did, and I could use those. But I don't think we could do that, actually. I think because that event is privately run and driven, that it would not be able to receive these services, because it's government provided, and so we cross in the anti-donation clause stuff. But like the fair is different; it's a county event. And the deputies often provide security there.
That's county property, so that's, okay. So what about number 6? Providing for an air service.
That's something you could do, but you don't have to do. And it's one of the items identified in the state statute that you can use it. I don't think what we're gonna collect on the county end would even come close to meeting that. If the city brings it back and wanted to explore something jointly, then regional air service is something that is a need and would help drive economic development, and it's being worked on right now. So if this in some way could support that, maybe, but we'd have to look at all the numbers and see if it made sense to do that or not.
Because I'm taking this number off the top of my head because I'm not seeing, I think you kind of give a rough estimate of kind of maybe like in the neighborhood of 70,000 a year or something? Was that close to that?
Yeah, that's based on research Jay and I did. That was, our guess was maybe 70 to 90,000. Could be accurate, could be completely off base, I don't know. I do know that Lincoln County was bringing in 300,000 or 400,000 a year with theirs. And so it's possible we could get there. We have a fairly large amount of Airbnbs in the unincorporated areas. And there's a need for more because the current hotel accommodations in Alamogordo and even Cloudcroft are not enough to meet the demand. And so what ends up happening is people visiting White Sands end up staying in Las Cruces instead of here.
So that 5 and 6, can that be taken out of this?
It could be.
So there's nobody that's gonna read into that? I don't mind, like say the fair, for example, I don't mind supporting that. But I'm just trying to figure out like your event and then the other apple festivals and cherry festivals and I mean, could get out of hand real quick.
Well, this is just stuff that it can be used for, but we don't have to supply this.
It would have to be approved at the commission level.
If you ever did it for one, you'd have to do it for them all.
You would. And again, I think there's anti-donation clause issues with it being provided to private businesses. If it's another government, if it's the county doing it or the city or one of the villages, then that might be something that the public funds could be used for.
Because you take the fair, for example, the rodeo, the amount of people coming into that, I mean, that's them staying and buying and doing all their stuff. It's gonna give a big impact to the county and the city. So, I mean, they would make their fair part of it, you know, but.
Well, in the case of a lot of local events, our volunteer fire departments do set up at them. They're set up at the fair. We do have them at the Cherry and Apple Festival, and we provide a donation to them to account for their time and everything. But this would be a potential way to support that capability in the community, and I don't think it would exceed the cost, and it could be a good use of it.
I have a question. Being that this lodging tax can only be used to promote and advertise for activities or places outside of incorporated areas, would we be allowed to use that money that he's speaking of for the facilities?
I removed that. I had removed it in other parts of this. Because when I read the statute, I don't think that we're required to do that. That's how Eddy County wrote it, but I think the goal and the purpose is to bring money and economic development into the area. And I don't think it's necessary to distinguish between incorporated and unincorporated. If we're promoting Otero County, we want to be able to talk about White Sands, pistachios, things in Cloudcroft, things in Tularosa, Alamogordo.
So you're moving, is that a new version or?
It's something that we'll discuss as part of these changes and that we'll make it in the final version. So I have a working draft on the computer that I'm making these changes and some of the other ones we discussed.
The last time we discussed this, we had a first-year average expected income of 27,000. You printed off 2 of them.
That, I think that was the figure that was given on that one website that we were using that said the average annual revenue of an Airbnb in Otero County was 27,000.
And on that note also, with that website, that half the prices, my parents own Airbnb. And so I looked at it. 27,000 on an Airbnb. I wish, maybe 12. So that's one of my concerns also, is that our idea of how much revenue this is going to drum up may be inflated because that website is showing that these Airbnbs do more money than they actually do. We also talked to Ricardo in the assessor's office. He had an Airbnb in Cloudcroft, and he said the same thing. He doesn't make that much money, but that website said he said that to me.
So the Lincoln County, the treasurer, the first year they had 31 lodges reporting, and they only collected 4%, and they started off with $61,000. And then by 2023, they are collecting 5%, and they have $474,000 a year. And that's with 399 lodgers now reporting.
Not reporting?
That are reporting.
Oh, they are reporting.
And so, and I think you have in here that we have 251 right now? Is that?
You did a count, right? And it was like 80.
I thought that's about what.
I think it's 251, but some of those were in the incorporated areas.
Okay.
And so Sylvia did her best to kind of look at the map lines and do a hand count, and we came up with approximately 80.
Okay. And do we count an RV park as one? Or do we count an RV park as every lot?
As compared to like an Airbnb, I would count it as like multiple, because like an Airbnb, you're only getting one person at a time. At the RV park, you have maybe 10 at a time. And we didn't include that in our estimations. And there are a lot of RV parks in the area.
Well, my biggest, not fear, how you want to say it, what I would really like for this to do is try to promote, advertise, and that's going to bring me to another question. Otero County, that's what I want to see this money go to. We're putting back into the county. What's going to bring that other question out is, who is going to be the one that's going to be doing the advertising, or do we give, say, the chamber does advertising, do we give money to them to do it? Do we have to get a new staff for advertising? Who's going to do that job?
There's a couple different avenues to accomplish that. One would be the Chamber of Commerce if they applied. The way it's set up, it envisions entities being able to apply for use of the funds and explaining what their planned use is, and then the board would approve or disapprove that. Another way that the county could accomplish it is paying private advertising firms to do promotion campaigns in airports or various areas, or pay for pamphlets or billboards.
Because you see those funds, I mean, you go all over the place and say, Red River, New Mexico, for example, you can go and see their little flyers in all kinds of different restaurants in Santa Rosa or, you know, Las Cruces and stuff like that. Is that what you're talking about, hire out to an advertising company?
Yeah, they could accomplish that. I know the chamber has plans to do stuff like that, and they were advocated passage of this because they would be applying to get these funds and do things like that. And the Red River pamphlet is really nice, and they have a copy of it over at the chamber because they want to do something like that.
Am I understanding it correctly that if this gets approved, then we have people apply to be on an advisory board, and then the advisory board selects the entity, or do we still select the entity? And then does that advisory board work with that entity on the funds spent, or what is the actual role of the advisory board?
So you actually appoint the advisory board, is how it's written now. And
I got that on the New Mexico Hospitality Lodgers Tax Best Practices Handbook.
It's in this, right here, the very first page.
so the board will submit recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners for approval. So they'll be like the first line that assesses the applications, and if they like one, then they'll send it to one of our monthly meetings for your consideration and approval.
For advertising?
Yes, that's in section 14G.
So basically, from what I'm kind of getting, it would be kind of like, say, the planning and zoning board. They would do, and then they would bring the recommendation to this board for. So what department is all this gonna fall under then?
Treasurer's Department.
That one?
Yeah, and part of that is because they have the responsibility to collect funds. And so it makes sense for most of that to fall under them. That being said, I imagine they will be submitting a request that a portion of those funds fund someone, another employee to handle it possibly. So, you know, there's 4 of them in there, and that's one of the changes I was making tonight is instead of making this effective 30 days, considering the time of the year and the obligations and constraints they have, 30 days doesn't make sense to have all this set up and going. So 90 days would be a more reasonable and realistic timeline.
In that 90 days, will it be in time to turn in our budget if we have to add another person to that department?
That would probably be premature because we don't know how much it's going to bring in or how much work, I think. And I don't want to speak for the treasurer, but so she can weigh in since she's here. But with 90 days, they'll be past the big tax push and all of that, and then they'll be able to set up a mechanism for this and start it, and then see what it's gonna take, what it's gonna bring in, and from there, we would have more information to reevaluate and see what we can pay for and what the needs would be. But defer to Ms. Whiteside.
Okay, so I think if you do impose it, maybe we should do July 1st, beginning of the fiscal year. That way we would be through budget and we could see where we're gonna go from there. I would definitely need another employee. My 2 girls are strapped. They are completely busy, especially through tax season. There would be no extra time. I would also need another computer. I have that in my budget right now, but the desk that the person would be sitting at is completely dead. There's no computer there, so I would need another computer. I have lots of questions. So do we want to address those now, or do we want to just talk about the person at the moment?
That's what this is about, isn't it?
Yep.
Okay. How this is written, and I think RB is changing it, it states that the county manager or his or her designee would be collecting these taxes. And as I stated to RB earlier, set up in the New Mexico Constitution, the county treasurer is the one that collects all funds. It would be a conflict of interest for the commission or the manager under the commission. There would be a separation of powers there. So that needs to be changed. I've already just stated that I think these numbers are inflated, that you aren't going to be making as much as you were thinking. Also, I mentioned this in my email before, that I feel like this is discriminatory to our county residents versus our city residents, because they are having an extra burden of having to collect this tax. According to this ordinance, there's lots of red tape they have to go through. They have to obtain a business license from, I'm assuming, it says the county manager, but I'm assuming it would be me. No? Who would be getting this business license?
We don't enforce business licenses in the county.
Okay, well, but it says that in here.
It needs to get
It's
removed.
The lodger license to be a lodger.
It's part of the, find it. Section 5, number 3. A description of other facilities provided by the vendor or others to users of the lodging, such as a restaurant, bar, cleaning, laundry, courtesy bar, trailers, or other departments, and statement of identifying the license issued.
What page is that?
Three.
Page 3.
3 of 12.
Page 3, and then it goes on to page 4.
Yeah.
So I'm a little confused. Back up just a little bit, Laura. How are you figuring it's a disadvantage to the local residents? What?
Well, you're putting more of a burden, an accounting burden. They have several things they have to go through, red tape they have to jump through just to be able to run their business. These are the steps. They apply for a license through the county manager. They're not even allowed, after this is imposed, it says they are not even allowed until they are approved to run a lodging facility without going through this process. So at that point, they start collecting the tax. They report to the county manager, that's what it has in here at the moment, how much was collected. They pay the county manager, which should be the county treasurer. Another problem I have is they have to fill out, they have to make the renter sign an affidavit and give a copy to the county. Each renter has to sign this affidavit. Let's look at the affidavit. All right. I, so-and-so of the residence or domicile, agree and understand by signing this attestation, I hereby acknowledge the information indicated below is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. The lodging that is being provided to me by the vendor will be, number 1, temporary lodging for the purpose of housing within the proximity of my job location or employment location. Or 2, lodging provided is not for the purpose of housing within the proximity of my job location or employment location. Okay, well, let's say I'm here on vacation. Which one do I pick? And let's say it's an Airbnb and the guy runs it from California. How is he going to have them fill this out? I'm in the drawer? Send me a picture?
You'd have to have somebody at the facility running it, wouldn't you?
No, I rented an Airbnb in Phoenix once. The guy did live in California. He gives you a code through text. You enter it. And you lock it.
Well, the guy said he was in I'm just presuming if he's in California, he would have to abide by whatever restrictions, regulations that would be wherever his Airbnb, whatever, is located at. If he was in California,
And you will impose
okay, I'm
this
gonna
law.
give you another example. Shannon Wright lives in Alamogordo, Otero County. He has an Airbnb in Ruidoso.
Right.
So he still has to abide by Lincoln County or Ruidoso, wherever his deal is,
Mhm.
on his lodger's tax. So it'd be no different than if he lived in California. When he fills it out, he's got to have the same,
So do they have this in Lincoln County? They have to sign this affidavit that may not
Well,
even apply? I mean,
if Lincoln County is doing it, I would think they'd have to do something.
I'd be interested to know how you expect them to do that.
I think that the form should be modified so that we fill out exemption forms for people over 30 days only, and not everybody has to fill out a form every single time they check in.
Better idea.
So it starts for anyone staying more than 30 days.
Right.
And then we were speaking earlier about the 31 and over, and snowbirds, they're not permanent residents, so they would apply to be within they wouldn't be exempt from this.
And I read that they are.
Right now, temporary lodging is defined as lodging for the purpose of housing a vendee within proximity of employment or a job location. So that's trying to capture people that are going to be here longer than 30 days, but it's not because they're moving here, they're just here for a job or something of that nature. But I think that could be worked on more because I would want to capture, or I think it would be prudent to capture someone that's staying here 4 months in their RV, but they're not permanently living here. They're transient.
Perhaps you should put an end date, 31 to 120 days.
It'd be interesting to see how these other counties implement that. I mean, they have to be doing it, well, I guess they don't have to be, but they should be doing it one way or another.
Definitely.
So when you stayed in the one in Arizona, did they give you a breakdown on what the cost, what the sales tax was, if there was a lodger's tax or anything? There was nothing?
When you stay at Airbnb, it tells you fee, it tells you Airbnb's fee, it tells you taxes, total. And that's another thing I was thinking is discriminatory because, like I had said, if you're going to stay at an Airbnb on Highway 82 outside of the city, and you're staying 3 nights, or let's say 7 nights, and it's $50 a night, and you look in the city, who doesn't have the tax, and, oh, wait, I can save however much I don't have the calculations at the moment, but it's a significant amount, $50, by staying in the city versus outside the county. I don't think it's fair to the unincorporated areas that they are having to charge more of a fee, which makes people less likely to stay there. If the city had it and we had it, by all means.
Sounds like the city's trying to get it back. At this time, they don't have it. I understand your point.
It's $2.50 for $50.
Okay, times 7.
I stayed 2 nights in Santa Fe last week, and it was $35 each night, extras for the lodging tax. We don't have a choice, had to stay.
Right, but you would have a choice in this case.
Maybe if there's
Unless they-
availability in the city, but then they may all be full.
I think an exemption form for those that are permanent, and then we just need to define permanent.
It would be, so domicile has some legal meanings, and so we would have to make sure we're kind of following within that. And it's gonna go like anyone that doesn't intend to get a driver's license or pay taxes for being a resident here would be someone that this would apply to. If they're gonna get a driver's license and pay taxes based on being a resident here, then it would not apply.
So Laura, I see your point with it's not fair to outside to inside, but what this is gonna revolve to, and the way I'm looking at it, is the big picture, if we get this and implement it in, that $2.50 a night, whether it's 7 days, that's $17.50 or whatever, the people that are going to be more advertised, if we can get this promoted out, get it out everywhere, and I would almost guarantee you the city's gonna bring this back in. If we bring it back in, they're probably gonna follow right in behind us. But it's gonna promote Otero County, which what we're up here trying to do, to bring more people, get more business, and just get it here. Get people to know about White Sands, get people to know about Cloudcroft, the casino up there, you name it, the bicycle trails, the walking paths, you name it. We can get it here, but we've gotta have some funding, and this is where the funding comes to advertise, to promote that.
Okay, well, and that's good, but I just don't feel like this is laid out correctly at the moment.
Well, this is what we're working on, but it's gotta be work in progress.
But if you approve an ordinance and there's wording in it, then you just change it, you can't, I don't
We're
feel
gonna
that's
get it
properly
changed
advertised
before it's,
before you pass it.
before we
Okay,
approve it.
That makes me feel better.
Because, I mean, it's gotta be right.
Yes,
So if there's gotta be changes, and RB's gonna have a little time to get it changed, I'm fine for waiting a little bit until we get it all, and then relook at it again. We wanna make sure we're right.
yes.
Nobody wants to get in trouble, especially us. But we're trying to look for the best for the community, the businesses, and try to make this whole thing click for us. Bring more people out to Alamogordo, Otero County, Cloudcroft, White Sands National Monument or Park, you name it. That's what we're here trying to do, the best for the county.
Let's say this is enacted, how do all the Airbnb owners, how do we find them? To let them know they need to start collecting this.
Airbnb actually facilitates the collection of.
They do?
They do.
And they send a breakdown of who's what?
You contact them and let them know you've enacted it and where the areas apply, and then they administer it, and they collect it as part of the fees they collect, and then they send it in.
With reporting on their, because there's certain reporting that has to be included with this, with, how many people, how many nights stayed, and then this affidavit also.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Will be a part of the challenge, not only with Airbnb, but folks that are renting out their places that aren't on Airbnb. Those will be even more difficult to find, and part of this will be communicating to people providing lodging, that they need to go through this process. And it's
Or they're
it's
legally
gonna
bound
take,
with fines if they
yeah,
don't.
well, I am not one for levying fines on people, willy-nilly, and, so I think especially as this ramps up, it would need to be very flexible and working with the businesses instead of being heavy-handed. And then just for clarification, there's not a lot of examples of collecting the post 30-day tax because the state made that change to the statutes in 2020. And so not a lot of cities or counties have updated their ordinances since then to capture that. So Eddie was the one that I did find. And this is the process that they initially set up, but when I was looking tonight on their website, I could only find how to apply for the funds for a grant. I couldn't find out how to register my my Airbnb with them or anything. So it's not good. We don't want to be like that.
I really like the way that Lincoln County has their website set up so that you can even pay. They are assigned an account number, and they go in and say, this is how many nights people stayed in, this is what we owe you. And, I mean, it's really basic, just like filling out your GRT taxes.
Except it doesn't calculate for you. It's just a form, basically, that they would email to us, and we would have to do the calculation, and then match that payment up as it came into our bank statement with that payment.
I know that it would be a little bit, it's gonna be a bigger burden on you, it'll be a little bit more burden on the Airbnb owner. Take Boot Hill, for example. They stay pretty full. Say they have 100 spaces, and they're running average 75. If this comes into effect where we can promote and do more advertising and get more people to come, if this runs there from 75 to 80 spaces, that 5 extra spaces would be worth the little burden to me on the extra amount of income that would come in. That's is one way that I'm looking at it. It's going to be a little burden on everybody, on all the owners, the treasurer department.
Well, it's not the burden then, I'm just wanting everything worked out properly, that before we make this decision.
Yes, and that's why we have Mr. Nichols over there.
And you said, so it's 251 is what we think we have in the county? Or no, we have less because you moved out some of the city. So how many do you think we have in the county?
As far as Airbnb specifically, it was approximately 80.
Okay.
So then I know there's Boot Hill, there's the other one off of 54. Can't think of the name right now.
You've got Edgington.
Edgington, that one. And then, there's ones in Mayhill and High Rolls.
So I average 100 customers accounts receivable a month, and I manage that in one day. So
Wait, say that again?
I manage with both my businesses about 100 customers with my accounts receivable, sending them bill, the collections and all that. So maybe 2 days of me dealing with 100 of my customers sending me money and their balances and managing and all that. So I can't, 4 days to manage this. Once the program is implemented, I can't see it's a full-time job at all.
What about delinquent collections?
I do that all the same. 1 day, I call
And how
them.
many employees do you have?
Employees.
Is that what you said?
Me. I
Oh,
do it all
you
by
do it on your
myself.
own? Oh,
Yes,
okay.
with 100 accounts payable customers.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and I do that in addition to everything else in one
So
day.
you're thinking we could do it with a part-time employee?
Absolutely. Super part-time.
And finding someone qualified to do that wants to work part-time?
It doesn't take much.
I mean, I had a hard time
Volunteer
finding.
my time.
We were paying $14 an hour for a part-time employee to help us collect taxes, and we had a really hard time even finding candidates to apply. I think Julianne's having that same problem, having qualified people.
And I actually have a question about the vendor audits, section
Yeah, I have that
12.
too.
In that best practices handbook that we received, I guess a couple months ago on the lodger's tax, in there it states that if the county or municipality collects more than $250,000 in lodger's tax revenue, the governing body must conduct random audits of vendors to confirm compliance. But in the ordinance, it sounds like we would be doing that regardless of how much we collected. And I think that would be a little bit burdensome, depending on, how many we had to do each year and who's gonna do it. Is it gonna be me and an employee? Are we gonna hire someone to do it? Who's gonna go out to these establishments? And I would imagine we would have to give them notice ahead of time. They don't, I don't just wanna, show up on someone's doorstep and say, hey, I'm here to audit your books.
Well, last time I was in an audit, the state just sent me an email and said, we want to see this, this, and this, and I had to email it to them. I mean, it wasn't, it was a pain in the butt for me, but, and I don't see us being a dictatorship like that. We're gonna take everybody at their word, and we don't have to audit every single one of them. It's a random thing. They've paid us 2 months in a row every single day. They had somebody, and all of a sudden, they don't have anybody for 6 months. That would spur an audit.
With that being said, also, in section 8, duties of the vendor. Vendors shall maintain adequate records of facilities subject to the tax and of proceeds received for the use thereof. Such records shall be maintained in Otero County and shall be open for inspection of the county during reasonable hours and shall be retained for 3 years. Again, what if an owner resides in another state? How is he going to keep these records maintained in Otero County?
I think it should say such records shall be maintained.
Yeah, Laura and I talked about that, and it doesn't matter, like, they can be maintained in the cloud, they can be maintained in California, like, as long as they can be provided if asked for.
Okay, I'd be excited just to see the changes.
So I think I've been going through here, every time I see manager, I mark it out and put treasurer.
Correct, for his designee.
Laura, can you contact, say, the treasurer of Lincoln County with your questions that you have? Maybe they can give you an example or a better answer than what we are. I mean, maybe it'd be helpful on trying to get the pieces of the puzzle put together.
Yes.
I think Rachel did that, didn't she, when I spoke with her before our last lodger's tax meeting?
We have spoke to Lincoln County. They are getting it out of their office because it's become too cumbersome. They're actually starting a whole new department that's going to be lodger's tax collection. And, I mean, it still will be given to the treasurer, but it's going to be its own department. It's growing into its own form of government.
So that's telling me it's big enough up there that it's gonna have its own department to, I mean,
When
it'll
we
just
get
turn.
When we get up to $400,000 a year, we can talk about that.
They are a tourist town.
Yeah.
And Eddie would be a good county to reach out to because they're doing the post 30-day collection.
What page was the reference to business licenses on?
That is section 5 application, on page 3. And, I don't, it's not really a business license, it's,
an
approval to
account.
operate as a lodger.
Who gives that approval?
You do, based on the changes I made.
I have a question in 3 because it states an identification number provided the vendor by the Bureau of Revenue of the state of New Mexico. What is that?
It'd be the tax number.
Okay. Tax ID number.
We should already be paying gross receipts tax on these rentals.
Yeah,
so we
it's just
should
the
have
way it's
that.
worded. It didn't specify tax ID
Yeah.
number, so I was confused.
Probably should say Taxation Bureau.
I don't think it's really an approval process. They're an Airbnb, they need to open an account. They submit the form and they get account number 100. That way we have some sort of method for keeping track of them. And like the Lincoln County website, it has account number. You type it in, you do all your reports and submit.
You might check with the city because their process was pretty easy, because I had to pay lodger's tax on for the business that I work for. And it was a pretty easy process.
So instead of on section 5A, it says, and receive approval as provided in this section, and receive your account number.
Lincoln, their form does follow this approval framework, but I get what you're saying, like, I mean, I don't know why we would not approve someone, like, I don't think we're gonna be inspecting whether they're up to some code or, you know, if they're providing a tent and a fire site out there and they wanna pay us lodger's tax, we're gonna give them a thumbs up, so.
That's right.
I mean, it's really, they're applying for the privilege to pay us money.
And you know, once we get this promoted, they're applying so that we can further promote them. You know, and depending on whoever manages this money, I think that they should absolutely advertise our B&Bs in the county.
Can they say that again?
What?
Who does what?
Whoever accepts the money management part of it,
okay.
I think should definitely
But you're saying I need to
promote.
do that part too.
No, the B&Bs that are helping establish this. You know,
So it
here's a
benefits them.
list. Here's a list of all the B&Bs in Otero County. Pick one.
So it's kind of saying that you can't provide lodging in the county until you've been approved to provide it, because you have to be set up to pay the lodging tax.
I think there should be a 6 months grace in this. If we're gonna begin this like July 1st, hammer down on anybody.
We could change the framework more to a just register, say that it
Yes.
is mandatory, that if you intend to provide lodging within the county, that you register with the treasurer and provide the requested information, and then start complying with the lodging tax. To Julianne's question about the audits, do we want to make audits, random audits mandatory under 250,000? Or only audit once more than 250,000 is being brought in.
I mean,
Because she's not wanting extra work. If we are bringing in 250,000 or more, at that point, I think we can definitely justify dedicating additional employees and resources to that who could also be responsible for the auditing.
It says if you, it doesn't say it here, but I did read it in the law, I believe, that if you make over 250,000, you have to do audit one or more vendors. How much?
So it could be 2.
One or more. Could be
So-
1.
So we can set that at 250?
It's already set in law, I believe.
Okay.
Another problem that might occur is if Airbnb starts implementing this tax and we're receiving funds for it, however, we do not have an application for these folks because we've given them a 6-month period. How do we track that?
I think that we need to ask those that receive the funds from Airbnb, how are they itemizing it? So that we know how to track them. I would
But
assume.
you said that Airbnb sends the check with an itemized.
Yeah, I would assume that they itemize 10th Street, Boot Hill, I mean, whatever, Edgington.
Well, I would hope
this
that
much.
they would have a name and an address so we could have some kind of contact information. I've never dealt with it, so I don't know.
Back to the audits, I take that back. It does say that even at less than 250,000, you still have to conduct random audits.
Right, it doesn't specify a number.
It doesn't specify how many. And if you make over 250,000, you have to do, you have to randomly audit at least one. So it's terribly written.
And that would be an audit finding on us if we do not do that.
I think that's easy, just like the state of New Mexico. You get an email, you're being audited, I need this receipt and this much, and, I mean, it is the lodger that has to do that, but it's everything that they have already.
So Julianne, the question you were asking about if you were gonna have to do the audits, according to this, the way it's wrote, the audits may be performed by the county manager, the finance director, or the finance director's designee, or by other of the Board of County Commissioners. As far as that goes, Pamela would do it.
I think you want someone with better numbers in their hand to do it.
I was kind of saying that jokingly because there's another example that where the county manager needs to be removed from that.
Right, and I'm totally okay with my title being taken.
There was another thing I saw in the board that is set up.
Section 14 is on page 7, is where it talks about the board.
Okay, so we have 2 members that are owners and operators of lodgers facilities, 2 members of businesses in the unincorporated area primarily providing services or products to tourists. You have a lot of those that would want to maybe be on a board? I mean, I can think of a handful, but I can't think of more than a handful.
And that's by statute, that, the language for the board.
Okay,
So that,
well, that means we have to find that,
Yeah.
so that
You
could be a
got-
problem.
got 2 pistachio places.
The running
Got some
Indian.
people that
Apple
do
barn.
cherry festivals, you got RV parks, and what would be in the other one. We have a lot of we have a lot of tourism stuff. There's 3 Rivers.
Watson's National Park? Would they count?
They would be an owner-operator.
Right.
Right, but that might be a problem, but, the other one I had a question on was in section D, the secretary. Who would be the secretary? A designee of the county manager shall be the secretary of the board and shall faithfully keep minutes of the board and all correspondence of the board and shall have no vote. Who's the secretary?
Isn't that established when you establish the advisory council and they have a secretary?
Well, it says I'll designate
No,
that.
they don't have a vote, so they're not a real part of the vote of the board.
So an advisory council plus a secretary.
Right. But it would be a county employee. I mean, it's a designee of the county manager, so I'm assuming you would need a county employee to do it.
Well, I don't think it's any different than Sylvia taking minutes for the Grazing Advisory Board or the Planning Commission. It's, I can appoint a staff member to be at meetings and take minutes.
And like, you can probably record and have AI transcribe meetings these days. So Sylvia's not doing it all the time.
And I wasn't implying I would appoint her.
In the statute, section 8 under audits, it says the Board of County Commissioners shall determine each year the number of vendors within the county to be audited. The determination shall be based on recommendation from the county treasurer.
And who will do these audits?
I'm sorry.
Who will perform the audit?
We're getting there.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's the process. And then random audits, notices to audit, the procedure for the audit.
What page is she on now?
She's,
I
we
mean,
don't
the
have that.
statute. It was
She's in the
from last
statute,
meeting.
yeah.
Oh,
It looks like that. Oh, it's
Colfax.
Colfax's. Required audits may be performed by the county treasurer or by any other designee of the Board of County Commissioners.
Anybody?
Whoever we decide to do the audits.
you would probably hire that out just like we do any of the other audits that we have, wouldn't we?
If so, we would definitely need budgetary means to do so.
I think when we establish the reporting form, an audit should be simple if they're doing it correctly. I mean, literally, when the state audited me, they sent me an email, here's what we want. I had to dig it up, scan it, email it back. And they said, well, we want it in like a Excel format. Okay, then I had to just go in and put it all into an Excel sheet so they could see it. I mean, and then if I was to maintain that Excel sheet, then next time I get audited, I just email that with the copy of the receipts. It wasn't a big deal, and it was no manpower. I was answering somebody on the computer. Never got to talk to a human at all.
So can you tell me the statute where that process is? You said you were reading the process of the audit?
That was just Colfax County's ordinance.
Yeah, I thought it was. So it says NMSA 3-38-17.1.
3-38-17-1?
Dot one.
Dot one?
Is one reference to the
3 is the
statute.
municipal code that no counties are mentioned in
The statute that covers audit is 338-17.1, and it's doesn't have a ton of information. It's just if it's over 250,000, you got to audit one or more vendors. If it's less than 250,000, you're still to do random audits, but it doesn't specify. And the copies of the audits have to be filed annually with the local government division.
So RB, how long would it take for the questions that Laura had, some of the other little things, taking the county manager out, the tweaking this, would it take to where we could come back and everybody could review it again and see where the changes we made, what progress we've made? And some of the questions like this, where this maybe could give Laura a chance to talk to the other counties or a couple of the treasurers and see how they're doing it, what it really pertains, and come back for round 2 or 3.
Most of the changes are quick, but I want Laura to be able to get the answers that she has answered and feel better about this based on conversations with other treasurers. The only thing that we've talked about tonight that I think would take a little bit of time, but not much, would be figuring out a way to tweak the post 30-day.
14 for public hearings. We could actually put it on next Thursday's meeting to request a hearing.
Oh.
We can make it quick if we add that to next week's meeting, to schedule it next Thursday.
I'm just, if we could get some of these questions answered, maybe it'd be a little more clear to everybody. We could get the next step in or something. Because it's going to be a lot of it in your lap, so you need to have your questions answered.
Right.
So the 18th to hear.
To request to
what
have a
she's
public hearing.
Found out? or
No, to request
just-
another public hearing.
Okay.
If it's a new ordinance, probably not. Typically, we do that so they're aware that we're bringing forth changes to a new ordinance. So I guess technically, you could just schedule a hearing today,
Yeah.
because the process has already started. I don't know if you're ready to schedule something today.
What if we schedule it on the 18th and we already have a meeting?
We don't have enough time for that, because we do have to advertise 14 days.
So then the
What are your
25th?
thoughts? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we need to keep working on it. I mean, it's,
Yeah, but I think we need to kind of get those questions
Yeah.
answered and then see what the next.
How much time do you want, Laura? Like, I know you're in,
Well,
in the middle of tax. The priority is collecting taxes.
Right. I mean, I can call him. I mean,
Okay.
I can find a moment to call him.
And I think we can set a time to redo this, but I think we still need to go through more of the details tonight and answer what we can or highlight what needs to be answered. So like one, where I have a question, the advisory board, right now it says they'll meet quarterly. Is there any desire for them to meet more often than quarterly?
no, not me.
Do you think while this is established, once a month for the first 6 months and then quarterly?
Or can we say quarterly or more often as needed?
That's what it says right now. It says
Okay.
she'll meet quarterly or deemed necessary by the Board of County Commissioners.
Yeah.
So, as it's getting set up, you could direct that they meet every month for the first 6 months or something. Were there other questions or other sections that you had questions about or concerns about, Laura?
I think I've hit them all.
Commissioners, the soonest we could have a public hearing would be May 1st. And that's just because we miss the cutoff for the weekend paper, so I cannot advertise probably until Tuesday, if not Wednesday, for the 14 days.
That's Labor Day in Mexico.
There's a.
Did you find that on your calendar? Oh my gosh, it is.
There's a
You go fishing.
district.
Oh, that's not a holiday here?
Office meeting in Reynosa on May 1st.
There's a what?
That district watershed and dam owners meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Is May 1st?
I don't know if that's pertinent. And the 2nd is a normal commission meeting. Let's do it on the 2nd.
The 9th is your normal.
Oh, never
Yeah, I was
mind.
gonna say, shouldn't be the second.
Yeah, I mean.
It's a
the
budget
9th is-
meeting, sorry.
Yeah.
Never mind. May 3rd? Do we want to do in the evening again to allow opportunity for others to attend, or?
May 3rd's a Friday.
That's why I was saying the evening would be hard for some. Is this something we want to do during the day or in the evening again?
I was hoping we'd get some people from some of the RV parks, maybe a few people from the Airbnbs to come in.
But how do you find them? It's all online.
I literally drove my entire district and talked to probably 90% of them and invited them here to this meeting.
The Airbnb?
And the trailer parks, the B&Bs, everybody that I knew of, made the phone calls, the ones that are like up La Presida Canyon.
How did you identify them?
I just know
You just
the
know them?
ones that I know. I've rented, when we bring speakers in, we rent from them, so kind of know which ones have it. And there was only one that I stopped at that was opposed completely to it. And the other one was very, very concerned with their long-term, their permanent, because they were elderly residents and they can't afford more. So that's everybody else doesn't care.
Well, I know my dad does, but
Isn't he in the city limits? No? His B&B
he
over
went
there?
around it. The city limits did.
I thought it was over there by.
Yeah, he used to have that one. He has one next to his house.
Oh, okay.
So are we doing May 1st?
Do we need to go to that watershed and dam owners meeting? Does anybody need to be there for that?
I don't think we have to be there for that.
Okay. Then I'm good. You want to do Wednesday evening?
May 1st, Wednesday evening?
Yeah,
6 again?
or 5:30?
And commissioners, I won't be there as I'm leaving for Florida that day for my daughter's
that's right.
graduation from master's program, but you don't need me for that.
We'll give you more jobs if you're not here.
No, we're discussing that, where to put my name.
So May 1st? Do you feel comfortable?
Can you do May
I'm
1st?
comfortable.
Can you do May 1st? Even though it's Labor Day in Mexico?
Was it?
Trying to plan something for May 1st, but we'll just cancel it.
Oh,
Uh-oh. It's the day after our retreat in Reynosa. Does that ring any bells?
no.
Better not be your anniversary, or you're in trouble. So what time? You want to shoot for
5:30.
5:30? 5:30 on the 1st?
Is there any consensus on the tax rate for the post 30 days, or if you would want to do the post 30 days.
I think it stays the same, 5%, and if they're permanent, we have an exemption form.
I think we should leave it the same or it'll be too confusing.
I got a text from somebody that just said June. I don't know why June.
I think that's cutting it too close. We wait till June.
RB, what day were we gonna try to be with Ed? Well, I got my calendar out, because we had another meeting that morning.
Wednesday, 2 p.m.
Wednesday at 2 p.m.?
Yeah, the 17th.
And then we have a meeting with David at 9 o'clock too.
On the 17th?
On the 17th.
Yeah, we do.
Oh,
April.
and I'm going to be there?
Yeah.
Did he call you? He sent a meeting invite.
Oh, yeah, the chaperone one, yeah.
And then the other meeting's at 11? 12.
$12.
12? Is that gonna be here?
Yes. So another time that we can meet with Ed would be between David's meeting and the 12 o'clock.
So let's find a different day for Ed. There's gonna be too many in one day.
You want to be here all day?
Not really.
It's a lot of fun.
Let me call and see if we can get it at 3 o'clock with him.
2. I have a 3 o'clock.
2 o'clock?
2 o'clock.
Okay.
Laura, do you want to rework any of these forms before the next meeting?
Perhaps.
Okay.
Should we have?
I'm
a
happy to
little-
work with you and Rachel and
Okay.
we can brainstorm or.
Yeah, definitely send us over the changes that
Just
we have in the ordinance. And
the only thing that I noticed is on the grant application, the last page,
I don't know
page
what that
6,
means.
under the payment stipulations. Reimbursement request should actually be sent to Otero County Finance Office. And we would be the ones to review everything and make sure that the expenses are qualified.
I think
And
that
then
should
it'll
go
be
to the
submitted
advisory
to the
board,
normal
right?
payment
And then the
process.
advisory board comes to us?
I didn't hear what she said.
That the application of grants for the money goes to the finance director. Wouldn't you want that to go to the advisory board and the advisory board come to us?
I thought that's how it worked.
She's talking about the actual, wait, what is this?
The grant application?
This is for reimbursement.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's after it's approved and
Because
they've
then they
spent
spend the money and
then
then
we tell you to
yeah,
pay it.
reimburse it. Yeah.
Do we want to put together like a little working group to just go through the ordinance and with Laura, with RB and anybody else before we go back to the next meeting to have it a little more prepared?
Not opposed to it. If anyone wants to do it.
I'm fine with that, but the time you have the meeting is still during our busy tax collection. So during, kind of hard for me. What do we think? We're doing it first? Yeah, we're gonna be real busy through the, probably
Trying to send it
13th
to
to
you.
14th.
Okay.
Unless, of course, we meet in the evening.
Get it?
Yep.
The 17th in the evening, would that give enough time to have a little work session? And it doesn't have to be commission, just, we definitely need Laura, we definitely need RB. I'd be willing to sit in it.
Next week, the 17th, I'm assuming you're talking about?
Or the 24th, if that's too soon.
Are we gonna have, yeah, but we're gonna have to post for 2 weeks and then get the version.
Yeah.
So 2 weeks from the 1st is like the 17th.
You have to.
Get it? Okay.
That doesn't leave us very many days to meet.
What we're discussing is that when we publish the notice of public hearing, the document has to be ready for the public to view. So it has to be ready next Wednesday. So there's not much time for a group to meet.
So we might want to move not do the meeting on the 1st. If it's desired, there's more time to comb through it.
How about the 8th?
As far as doing it. 24th. So,
We'd have to meet and have it ready for publication by the 24th.
So if we meet on the 17th, just have a working group to present, have it advertised by the 24th? That,
Well, we're
but
gonna
we have
adver-
to meet to approve before
We'll
we
advertise
advertise it?
sooner, but it's when we publish the agenda, when we notify formally all that. That's why public hearings get a little difficult.
You ever get one lined out?
We're not doing it on the 1st, so you're good to celebrate. Next thing goes Labor Day. You're off the hook.
So then May 15th?
Sylvia was already advertising to get it to the paper.
Uh-oh.
Let me stop her.
was it was something wrong with the 8th?
No.
Oh, okay.
She left her phone here.
I'm okay with the 8th. Move it, go back 1 week. Is that enough time?
If we met on the 17th, it would be.
Okay.
Either works for me. I just, I'm sure.
So
So
May 8th. We're doing 5:30 again, or?
5:30.
May 8th this time?
Yep.
Yeah. Want some
Check
white
and
out?
see if it's Labor Day anywhere.
Cheryl?
Uh-oh.
There you go, Joe.
We don't have yurt in the taxable, the definition of taxable premises. We should probably add that.
Yurt.
Yeah. It's a thing now.
I know.
If you go glamping.
So who do we want in the working group?
You volunteered. And I assume Laura and Rachel and me. And then anyone else that wants to join the fun.
And that's gonna be on the 17th.
So the 17th at what time? All I have is a noon meeting.
Now what are we doing?
Booked most of the
It's a
day,
working
like,
group, but I don't think we'll have to be here for it.
I have a meeting 3 to 5, so
Like I said, that's still my tax collection season, so we'd have to be after 5.
After 5.
after 5's okay, okay.
So 5's fine.
Okay. 5 o'clock.
Was there a decision made on when we're going to have the public hearing? When I stepped out? The 8th.
The 8th, right?
Yes.
And
At 5:30 or 6?
5:30. And we'll just meet in that little room 101 or something?
Next to purchasing?
Yes.
Do what now? On the public hearing?
No.
Oh,
Just a
okay.
working meeting on the ordinance.
Okay. Are we good for tonight?
I think so.
All right, well, we don't have anything to vote on because we're.
Yep.
So do we need to vote on?
There's nothing to vote on tonight, no.
Okay. All right. If no one has anything else, we are adjourned.
Okay, thank
Go
you.
eat some dinner.